Hello and welcome to another episode of the Agency Leadership Podcast. I'm Chip Griffin.
And I'm Ginny Dietrich.
And Jenny, I'm burned out.
Are you?
Just burned out. I've hit the
Oh,
wall.
I'm sorry. You know who else is burned out? Olivia
Everybody.
Benson sleeping next to me.
Oh, well, that's good. That means
we,
no
we
dog
don't have to
yapping
play
throughout the
ball
show.
or yeah.
Yeah.
She may show up, but right now it's passed out, burned out.
What did you do to her this morning?
I didn't do anything.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know if, she had been out running around and
No,
got
it's
tuckered
snowing
out that
here,
way.
so no.
Yeah, now we've got some snow here as well. So
Dumb. It's
happy
April.
spring.
It's April. It's dumb.
Oh, it is what it is. Well, we are going to talk about burnout today. Not really necessarily mine or yours, but burnout generally and how agency owners can identify it, cope with it, prevent it. Just generally. I mean, it's a good topic because, you and I are both talking to a lot of agency owners who tell us that they are feeling burned out and they want to either take some time off or change up what they're doing or pretty much anything, which I don't blame them. I mean, you put on the news these days, pretty much anybody would feel burned out after about 5 minutes of the red breaking news chyron sitting on the screen.
Yeah. It's funny because we do a lot of work for a client that is in the HR space, and the HR publications have been covering this, I'd say over the last 6 weeks, leadership burnout. So it's definitely a topic. It's definitely something that everybody at the top levels is experiencing and thinking about. And I think it's a really good topic for us to explore because we're human beings. We're going to burn out. You can't necessarily prevent it, but there are things that you can do to help sort of mitigate some of the side effects of it. And also be aware that if you're getting to that point, it's going to affect your team too, because your attitude, your behavior, all of those things affect the way that your team behaves too.
Absolutely. And look, I mean, every entrepreneur that I've ever known faces burnout at some point or another. And I think there are two different kinds of burnout that we need to think about here too, because there's what I would call cyclical burnout, which, to me at least happens a few times a year, where it just, it catches up with you, the hard charging nature. And then there's longer term burnout where maybe you're starting to feel frustrated with the business generally, not just because you've been busy in the moment, but because, it's just wearing on you. And they're two different problems, but they're both definitely problems.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of them, the first one that you mentioned is the cyclical burnout, which is, I think we all tend to probably work more than we should. And we probably don't take care of ourselves the way that we should. We don't eat right. We don't sleep right. We don't exercise, all of those things that lead into it. And we are working, 10, 12, 14-hour days consistently. That stuff leads to burnout. And so you have to really think about how do you sort of take care of yourself first. It's like putting the oxygen mask on first, right? How do you take care of yourself first so that the business can survive and thrive, and so can your team?
Yeah, and I think it starts with trying to identify which kind of burnout you're feeling, right? Because if you can discern whether it is just that cyclical, I've hit the wall and need a short term break, versus I need to really shake things up. And I would encourage you, if you think it's the latter, if you think it's, I need to big time shake things up, get some short-term rest. Try to deal with the you probably have
Right,
short-term burnout
right,
too.
right.
Deal with that first so that you can think more clear-headedly about the bigger picture, because one of the things you really want to avoid is making substantial decisions when you feel burned out, because there's a natural tendency, and I have done this myself, to overreact in those moments.
For
And
sure.
instead of solving the problem in a simpler way, you go for the full on amputation because why not? I mean, that just it solves the problem. Who cares whether a little bit of rest and rehabilitation would have solved it instead?
This is kind of an extreme example, but a couple of years ago, a really good girlfriend of mine was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she's like, "I'm done. I'm out. I'm closing the business." And I was like, "Whoa. Let's take a step back here. Like, you're going through some stuff right now. Let's focus on the personal, and let's not completely bomb your business." And about 6 months ago, she called me and she goes, "Thank you for talking me off that ledge. I'm really glad I didn't close my business." And I was like, "You're welcome." But it's the same kind of thing, right? I mean, the burnout could be because you're just exhausted. The burnout could be because the business isn't doing what you thought it would, or it's not profitable. Or there could be something personal going on, a big life change going on that could create it too. So it's kind of the same thing that they tell women when they're pregnant: don't cut your hair while you're pregnant because you're going to regret it afterwards. So don't make big decisions when you're burned out.
That's not how I lost my hair, just for the record.
Um,
No.
you cut it while you were pregnant.
It wasn't really optional either, right? I didn't get to. I chose to make it all go away, but it was mostly gone anyway. Alas, I think it's a great point. I think you start by just take an hour or two off, even, right? If you're feeling like that, try to take whatever chunks you can so that you can lower that temperature just a little bit. And every little bit that you can improve things, the easier it is to start making rational decisions about how to address the larger problem, whether it's a short term or a long term one. You want to really avoid those knee jerk reactions that you tend to have when you're tired, when you're burned out, when you're frustrated. It's too easy to make the wrong choices.
Absolutely. And I mentioned this at the start, and I know that me telling you to take time for this stuff when you don't have time is counterintuitive, but I promise you, if you take time for yourself, if you get 8 hours of sleep every night, if you eat correctly, get your fruits and veggies and your protein and your fiber, if you, even if it's not like working out, you're taking a walk every day, those things are going to help because it's helping you as a whole person instead of you just sitting in front of your computer for 12 or 14 hours a day. If take a walk while you're doing a phone call, while you're talking to a client, there are lots of ways that you can get in sort of quote unquote exercise or get outside during the day, except that when it's snowing in April, but get outside during the day to be able to take care of yourself because those things help when you start to feel this way.
So I have two thoughts there. Neither one is necessarily useful, but if you are going to take a phone call while you're walking, please take it off video. There's
Oh
nothing to
yes,
me
please,
more annoying
just do.
than when
And
people are
please use
walking
your
around,
AirPods.
holding their laptop or their
Yes.
phone. They're bobbing all around on the screen.
It's
Like
hilarious.
just
Yeah.
go off camera. Just
Yes,
say
please.
I'm gonna go. So I'm gonna go off
I
camera,
agree.
and
Yes.
I'll just keep. Please do that. The second thought was if I get 8 hours of sleep in a night, I'm going to go crazy because I can't even remember the last time that I got 8 hours of
Bad
sleep.
for you. It's
It,
very bad for you.
that is absolutely not true.
You
Everybody has a
need
different
sleep.
sleep need,
Okay.
and you need to know what your own sleep need is. In my case,
Okay.
it's closer to 7.
Okay. All right.
Which
Seven's not bad.
it's
Let's
not
say
bad. I'm
7
not
to
talking about
9 then.
like I'm a 2-hour sleeper or something like that. But
Winston Churchill
if
here.
I've slept 8 hours, chances are it's because I'm sick. Even if I'm on vacation or something, I'm not going to sleep 8 hours. It just doesn't. I can't stay asleep that long. Apparently, you can, based on how you're
Oh,
looking
I
around.
can sleep.
Yeah. So can Jen. She's very good at that. I never have been. Even as a kid, I was like raring to go.
Yeah, I can
So,
sleep.
but yeah, I mean, take care of yourself in the best way that you can, given all the demands that you have on your time, because it will make it easier to address things. I think the next piece is to figure out what's really driving the burnout.
Sure.
Is it simply that you're doing too much work, or is it the kind of work that you're doing, or is it the stress that you're feeling? To your point earlier, either in your personal life and things that are going on outside of work or within work itself. You really need to diagnose the actual root cause of the burnout if you're going to make a change to it, because it might be that reducing the number of hours you work is not really the solution. It might be that changing up what you do or working in something else in your off hours to help. There are a lot of different ways that you can solve it, but if you don't know what's really driving your own burnout, then you're not going to be able to make a wise decision on how to prevent it, or at least put it off for a longer period of time.
Yeah, for me, it's the back-to-back meetings, and I'm in back-to-back meetings all day long, and then I don't have time to do my work, and so I spend the evenings and early morning hours doing that, and I start to burn out after that. So one of the things that I do is, because I can't always avoid the back-to-back meetings, I take 1 week a month with no meetings, and I say, this is my week that I'm not going to do anything, and I get caught up on things, and it allows me to sort of refresh. So I'm still working, but that's my sort of taking time off where I'm not having, and part of that too is because I'm an introvert. So all of that not being able to recharge during the week is a lot for me. So if I have found for me that if I take a week, a month of no meetings, that and it gives me the ability to catch up, that I do better that way.
Yeah, I think your point there is that it's different for everybody. So
Yeah.
for some folks, I mean, I've always loved meetings personally. Um, I do take energy from a lot of meetings, not pointless meetings, not useless meetings,
Sure.
but I actually I enjoy the back and forth, the give and take, and things like that you have in them. And so for me, I mean, yes, I want to be careful that I don't have them back to back so I can't get anything done. But at the same time, the mere fact that I have meetings is not an energy drain. It tends to give me energy. And so the solution for me is not the same as the solution for
Sure.
you.
Yep.
And every listener that we have is going to have a different solution as well. And so you really need to tailor your own approach to burnout based off of that and not based off of what works for you or me. I do think in general, most agency owners would benefit from carving out blocks of time for certain things, whether that's a week with no meetings, or in my case, I tend to block out half days throughout the week where I don't have meetings, mostly just to make sure that I don't ever fall too far behind on my inbox and things
Sure.
like that. So
Yeah.
I basically have 3 half days a week where I block from most meetings at least, and that helps as far as making sure that I keep my head above water at least at all times.
Yeah.
And that's something I've done for many years, and would encourage you to think through what's the right approach for you, what works with the rhythm of your own business and the way that you work best.
Yeah, because I think all of that leads to burnout because you don't, when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling underwater, and when you're feeling like you can't keep up, that's going to lead to burnout.
Right. And I think that, another piece of this is really understanding how you're spending your time and how you want to change that, whether that is spending more or less time in meetings, more or less time writing or doing other creative pursuits, more or less time doing business development. Trying to really understand exactly how you're spending your current time, which is why I'm such a big believer in timesheets and time tracking.
Yep.
It really does help, even if you're only doing it in snippets from time to time. And I would rather you do it all the time, but if you don't do it all the time, at least do it some of the time so that you have a clear picture of how you're spending your time, and then figure out, okay, what are the things that give me energy and what are the things that take energy away, and how can I rearrange things with my team, with my clients, with others, so I get more of those energy producing things and fewer of the energy drains. And that will help to resolve burnout, but more importantly, help to stave it off for longer before it comes back.
Yeah, yes. I mean, I think what we've outlined here is there's no one size fits all. It definitely depends on you figuring out why you're burned out or why why it's leading to burnout. Will help understanding, what gives you energy, what takes energy away. And to your point, it depends on your personality. It depends on the way your brain is wired, all of those things, right? So understanding that about yourself, because if you can present your best self, then you're going to present your best self for your clients, for your team, for your contractors, for anybody that you're working with, which is what you should be doing as an agency owner.
Yeah, and I think that the other piece of this is that you have to find ways to take time off.
Yes.
And the way we all take time off is different. If people looked at the way I take time off, they would say, that kind of looks like you're working. But to me, it's not. But, when I take time off, I like to read business books and watch business videos and things like that. But it's not deadline oriented client service things. It still is, broadly speaking, work, but it's mentally enriching portions of work that I can do in a more relaxed fashion. And so, again, that's how I've always done things. Most people are like, you're on vacation. Why are you reading these business books? Why? It's what I do.
And you don't have time to do it otherwise.
Right. And I enjoy it. So, yeah. I'm not going to apologize for it. And you shouldn't either. Whatever it is that vacation or time off looks like for you is what you should embrace. But you need to find some way to disengage from the day-to-day pressures, at least. Let's put it that way, more so than even taking time off. Because look, I understand as an agency owner, it's hard to take full-on time off.
Yep.
Things are always going to crop up. And, I've said it before on the show, I'll say it again. To me, I view it as a real asset that we have things like phones and other devices that allow us to stay connected, because to me, it is so much more relaxing to know that in a true emergency, someone can reach me to resolve things in 30 seconds rather than the old days when, I would go somewhere for a week, unplug, and then come back and realize that all sorts of things had gone to
The
hell in a
whole, yeah,
handbasket,
yeah.
and it took a whole lot more to solve it. You got to make sure that it's measured and that you're not, just doing your job remotely somewhere. Although for some people that may be good
That might
enough,
work too. Yeah.
right? Again, you got to figure out what works for you, but embrace all of the things that you have to help you to, in some way, disengage your brain enough to help deal with that burnout.
And for me, being able to stay on top of my inbox while I'm out helps. So I will check my email a couple of times a day,
Sure.
just to make sure there's nothing that has fallen off the tracks, or there's, and I'm not going to respond to emails that can wait, but I am going to like keep track of stuff, because that's easier for me and a lot less stressful for me when I come back to work. So I think that's a really good point, is just figuring out what works for you.
Yeah, I remember when I used to work on Capitol Hill 30-some years ago, and I would come back from a week off, and you'd come into the office, and the inbox was literally so high it was overflowing, and they had started putting stuff on your chair instead. So, it was because everything was paper-driven. This was, for you kids out there, this was pre-email. I had no email when I worked on Capitol Hill. You could still, walking down the hall, you could still hear people typing on typewriters. That's how old I am.
Crazy.
I know. It's hard to explain to people, but
Were
that's how it
people
used to be.
still on typewriters?
Yeah,
They
some of the
were?
older members still had their entire staffs on typewriters. When I started working on Capitol Hill, we didn't have PCs. We had dumb terminals.
Okay.
The amber screen dumb terminals.
Yeah.
And in the office I was in, I got the first PC myself because I was the only one who knew how to use it. But that was probably after, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years of working there.
Huh.
And it wasn't really connected to anything. And it was difficult. So, yep.
I love it.
I'm old. Moving on.
I love it.
So
I'm old. Moving on.
I think that the bottom line is that a lot of you are feeling burnout. There are a lot of ways to handle it, but first you have to try to figure out what those root causes are and then work on little incremental steps to start to address it. You're not going to wipe it all out overnight. And whether it's cyclical burnout or long-term burnout, you need to try to come up with a plan to address it, and hopefully do that when you're not so burned out that you can't think straight.
Yeah, I think you raise a really good point in that you may take a week of vacation and you will come back and you may still be burned out. So don't expect that that will help, but you could still be burned out. So don't expect that it is going to be solved overnight.
That's right. And there are no magic answers. So for all of you who send me emails or want to do calls with me where I can just give you the answer, there is no single answer. And by the way, for most of you, it is not just sell the agency.
Right.
It seems to be the favorite place that people, I'm just so burned out, I need to sell. Worst time to sell.
That is the worst time.
Worst time for so many reasons. But
yes,
maybe we can address that in another episode somewhere.
that's a good
When
idea.
is a good time to sell. So, on that note, I think we will draw this episode to a close before you're burned out just from listening to us talk about
boy.
it. So,
Jeez.
come on, that wasn't that bad. I've done worse.
Terrible.
Oh, please. I'm Chip Griffin,
I'm Ginny Dietrich.
and it depends.